Okay, let's see if this thing is on. So it has come to my attention that there are a few people that only want to use Avastar and Substance Painter or Mari or whatever other program you want to use to make a drawing on a 3D mesh for simply body tattoos. And that's totally fine. However, in order to set up an avatar for Second Life, you need to have a little bit of knowledge on how to handle Blender, what are UVs, how to use all that jazz. And this tutorial will make this as a priority and will only teach you the necessary steps that you need to know and need to follow in order to set up the avatar accordingly. I will not touch anything else. Also, for this tutorial, I will use the Blender 2.79. The steps for Blender 2.8 and above, that includes 2.92, are exactly the same with a little bit of variation, but I will go into that as soon as we are there. Okay, so here we are. This is the sweet splash screen for Blender 2.79, and you are probably there. Just escape to delete the splash screen. This here can go away too. That was a right click, just join down. That is my own step. And as the right for every project you start in Blender, you delete the default cube. In that case, I will delete everything. That is pressing A on the keyboard to select everything. Press X, which is the delete button, and then I delete everything. And as the right says, we are going to add a cube. No, I'm kidding. So we're going to delete the cube. Mouse wheel is zooming. We add an Avastar Avatar. Shortcuts is Shift A, and then down here we will have the avatar, and I will use the extended quad. Okay, this is our avatar. The avatar will start in pose mode. In order to change to the mode that we need, you can either click down here and change to object mode, or what I do, I'm a heavy hotkey user, that is Control Tab. Anyway, not needed. So we are pressing H to hide the armature because we don't need that. Step number 2. We are, I don't know if you can see that, I have no idea how the recording is going to turn out. You have a little triangle in this corner here. We are pulling this over to the side. Press T to get rid of the toolbar on the left side. Then we go down here and change this to the UV image editor. This is how it's supposed to look. Okay, nudge this over a little bit, like so. And get rid of this toolbar here as well. And now we will start the magic. Okay, at first, default Blender selection is with the right mouse key. You can change that. I leave everything by default, and even in 2.92 I select with the right mouse key because that is the only real way to select. Fight me. Okay. With the lower body selected, we are changing into object mode using the tab button, and we are going to completely ignore this message here. However, this message is important when you are doing any sort of edits on this mesh. For this case, press OK and ignore it. So tab is for changing this into the object mode, and every time we change into object mode on this default avatar, we will receive this message. So press A twice to select all, and now we have the lower body UVs here. However, we do not need these UVs in this specific area. We want to have them in a different area. So with the mouse hovering in this window, in this panel or side window, I just call this window, we are pressing A to select all, followed up by a press of G for grab, a press of X to only move this on the X-axis, which is only left and right. And here for Blender 2.79 we are using a very specific number. That is 256. And then enter. Which means that we moved these islands here, that's the name of those, to the right side of this original UV space, exactly the same size as this UV space is, or rather half of it. Was it an entire thing? No, the entire size. In Blender 2.8 and above, you would press G to grab. Well, you would press A to select all, then you would press G to grab it, then you would press X to only grab this or only move this on the X-axis, and then you would press 1, not 256, only 1, which will do exactly the same. And it needs to be on the right side, not the left side. This is important. Okay, once we are here, we are hovering our mouse over to the 3D viewport and we tap out of the edit mode. Next step is the upper body. So we select the upper body, go into the edit mode, disregard this, select all, and we are almost doing the same with a little bit of a variation here. So since this space here is already occupied by the lower body, we are now doing A, of course, to select all. We press the G button to grab this, which is now this. Now we press the Y button, so it only moves up and down. And now we are using the same number as we have been using for the lower body. That is 256. And enter. And out of the edit mode again, pressing tab. And the head can stay where it is, because the head, of course, there we have, that sweet thing is right here. Okay. So keep in mind, the lower body is here, even though you cannot yet see it because I'm not in edit mode. The upper body is here, and the head is here. If you would like to have your lower body up here, and the head here, and the other body here, you can do that. That's totally fine. That does not matter. Okay, now since we have all that, we just Shift select, which means we are holding down Shift and selecting all three of those. Yeah, to have them selected. And then we are going to File, Export, and pick. Actually, it doesn't matter. We can use OBJ, which is the wavefront, or we can use one of the Colladas. Substance Painter, especially Substance Painter, which is the program I'm going to use in a few seconds, can handle both of these formats. However, we're going to use the wavefront. And now everyone can see my naughty files. Oh no! Blender for Second Life? Yeah, it's fine. Untitled, that's fine too. Just press enter, and this is now exported as an OBJ file on your PC. Now we are using Substance Painter, which are already prepared. Okay, this is a pre-prepared file of a little test that I just did a few moments ago. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Okay. So if you do not do the UV map separation like I did in Blender just now, you will get this result here. This result here means that all three of these UV maps keep in mind that we have the lower body, the upper body, and the head are usually on the same space, and Blender, or rather Substance Painter, just stacks those unless we tell the body or the mesh inside of Blender that we are not currently here, or rather where they are supposed to be. So we are pressing Ctrl N to make something new and go into Select, use our Untitled, open, and now things get interesting. Okay, so first, the normal map format needs to be DirectX. Second, we need to use the UV tile workflow. And this here, for this project in particular, shouldn't matter. I guess we're going to find out, right? Okay, so you need to check the UV tile workflow, and I think this here is the default, I'm not too sure. A note on document resolution. Second Life will compress every single picture and every single texture you make down to 1024. So yes, you can work in 4069, which is a 4K resolution, which I do not recommend unless you have a graphics card with a lot of RAM. And I mean a lot of RAM. 1024 is totally acceptable. If you want to have a nicer looking viewport in Substance Painter or in Mari, whatever, you can totally use 2048. Second Life will compress this down, and when Second Life does the compression, it will look terrible. Okay, so 1024, DirectX. I have no idea what this here does, and we are just going to press OK. And yes, disregard that. And oh my! This looks almost the way we want this to look. So you see here, this is the lower body, this is the upper body, and oh my god, what is this? I guess that's the eyes, although I'm not too sure, to be honest. So we are going to take a look into Blender. So what did I do here? And no, actually I didn't set this one up. This is a new one. So follow me to some little troubleshooting, because those steps are important, aren't they? Okay, select nothing, which is A. Select the head. Is really the head? Okay, we have the outliner here, which I'm going to use right now because I need it. And this is essentially like your folder hierarchy in in a Windows Explorer. So pretend those are just folders. So we have the head mesh, yes, we have the lower body mesh and the upper body mesh. When you click them here, you can see that it also selects these here. So I just need the outliner to make sure that I really only have the head mesh, the lower body mesh and the upper body mesh selected. Good. File, export, OBJ, Untitled OBJ. Did you see how big that file was? 666! That's a bad omen. Alright, back into Substance Painter. Ctrl N to make something new. Yes, we are going to take that, select Untitled, OK, discard. Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Do you know what happened? Well, of course, if you know what I'm doing, or if you know this, then you know what's happening. Okay. So initially I didn't do anything wrong. I selected everything that I needed, but export wavefront selection only. Untitled. There we go. And Ctrl N, select the template. Untitled, open, OK, discard. There we go. this is how you set up the thing. Now, this goes a little bit further into the matter. So you may see that this here looks a bit weird, right? There's some weird shading going on, triangles and faces, and it's really odd to have this here. This is because of this particular UV. So let's go into the arms, for example, and we are of course ignoring this. So you may see the shading here. So we have a rather opaque, or is this the back, and the rather opaque front. But the arms here, those are a different kind of opaque. That is because of how this UV or this mesh was unwrapped. You can essentially think about an unwrap of mesh like papercraft. If you wanted to, you could make a papercraft and just unwrap this. You may have seen a tutorial about the cube that has like 6 sides and it's unwrapped in a cross-like UV map. That's essentially what's happening here too. However, for the Second Life UV map, the arms here are mirrored, or rather they are stacked, which means that the left arm and the right arm, yeah, that's her left, that's her right arm, that these here are stacked above one another, which means that you cannot have a right arm that looks different from the left arm. These arms will always look exactly the same, unless the body that you are using inside of Second Life has like a different material for this arm. If that is not the case, then there's nothing you can do to remedy this. However, for Substance Painter to have this here looking nicer, and if you are looking into tutorials on Substance Painter on mesh baking and all the other jazz that Substance Painter can do, which I will not touch, this will cause issues. To remedy that, we are going to go down here and choose the, what was this called? UV Selection and Display Mode Island, which means that when you are selecting something, right mouse button individually, it will select the entire island and not just a single place of it, like a face or an edge or a vertex. So we will select this here and do our little trick that we learned. So press G, press Y, 2, 5, 6, which will move this up exactly one of this invisible space that's over here. The same coordinates as if it would be here, just one place up, so to speak. To be a little bit more precise though, we're going to undo this, because this is a little bit more intricate than we would hope. We would probably like to know which arm we are pushing up there, right? So how do we do that? Easy. We change into the face selection mode. The hotkey for that would be to summon the interface by Control-Tab, and there we have the exact same options that we have down here. Okay, we deselect everything, and now we are hovering over our mouse over the piece of mesh that we want and press the L key, which essentially means linked. And since we have this nice red line here, which is the seam of the UV map, this means that L will only select till it hits a seam. So I could select only the front body, just hover my mouse over, press L, and it will only select the front body up till the seam. which will only work like that in the face selection mode. It will not work in any other mode. So we want this arm or this piece and this piece. Now we are going here and we are going to do the magic to move this upwards exactly 1. And now we know which arm is which. That's essentially the entire magic for this entire thing here. And if we select all, we have the her left arm is now here and her right arm is here. In Substance Painter, you can completely ignore the right arm or the left arm, depending on how you make your setup. If you know that the body you are using inside of Second Life does not have an extra material for one of these arms, which usually isn't the case, but we're going to stick to this. Okay, tab out of that, and I also remember this to be an issue with this here. This is the foot, I believe. So we are going to do the same here. Oh, right, camera control, right? Okay. Sorry, I should have touched upon this earlier. I'm trying to make this as professional as possible. I'm a professional tutorial maker. Okay, so camera control in Blender is middle mouse button or mouse wheel. Mouse wheel is zoom, zoom in, zoom out. You hold Shift and press the mouse button to do the pen, and you just press the mouse button to do this here. When you find your camera off space and you have no idea what it's currently centering about, you hit the comma key on the numpad, it's also the delete key, which will center the camera on the object you have selected. Okay. Now for this little tangent, we are going down to the foot, go into edit mode, ignore this message, and we are going to do the same here. Island already selected. We just need a little bit closer. I want to have this here moved off and this here moved off. That was L again. Hotkeys are the same. They are thankfully consistent. Grab X256 to move this over exactly 1 UV texture space to the right. And just to have a check, yes, that's pretty now. That's how it's supposed to look. Tabbing out of that, select the head, select the upper body, select the legs, File, Export, OBJ, Untitled, and now we are going back into Substance Painter. Control N to summon a new, select the template, untitled that, OK. Discard that, and look here, isn't that pretty? And now you can paint on both arms, but keep in mind this is only in Substance Painter. Okay, good. But it will make texture baking way easier. And now you can apply your materials, your fancy jazz language. And follow other Substance Painter tutorials in order to get the desired outcome that you want to have. Again, this is not a Substance Painter tutorial. This is only for Second Life, which will come to the next important thing for Second Life specifically, which is export of the materials that you need. Let me think here for a moment, because all of this is unscripted, as you may have already guessed. Yeah, let's keep things nice and simple, right? So I need to set up a specific template for the Second Life export textures. Keep in mind, in Second Life we only have one color map, or one channel for color. We have one channel for bump map, which is a normal map. This is the fancy looking green, blue, purple one. And we have the shine map, which is either roughness or metal. You can combine them, but that's advanced and I will not touch that. Okay, so we're going to take this just as it is, and we are stepping into creating our own export texture template. For that, export textures, output templates. These are all the ones that come pre-adjusted for Substance Painter, and I made my own using Second Life, or rather I named my own naturally. And here we are. So first off, the format of your texture. I know some people say you need to export these as TGA or Targa. Then there's other people that say like, yeah, no, take BMP and JPEG 2000 and all the other jazz. Just use PNG. It does not make any visual difference between Targa or PNG. You may see a difference when you compare them side by side. If you do not compare them side by side, you will not see a difference. Okay, so these are PNG. The color depth is also 8 bits because that's what Second Life uses, from what I hear experienced people talk about. So there's no need to go into 16 bits. It will only make the files bigger, and Second Life will probably compress these 16 bits to 8 bits anyway. Fun! Okay. So how does this work? Actually, it's very easy. So first off, we need to tell Substance Painter what kind of material or what kind of texture we want to export. In that case, we usually want for the color map an RGB, which is red, green, and blue. Yeah, and an alpha channel. So it's RGB plus A, which is exactly this one here. So this is the diffuse or base color, or rather this is different channels. I will touch upon that later. So actually let's delete this here. So diffuse and base color. So we open this, we just click onto that, and now these are empty. Which means that all we have to do is we are dragging and dropping that right here, and then we are choosing RGB channels because that's what we need. And for alpha, we use, where's alpha? Oh my god, we use opacity, drag this in, and click the A channel, which is the, wait a moment. Yes, I'm aware of that. Opacity, come on. Gray channel, my bad. So yeah, the gray channel, that's what we want. That happens when you only set them up once and then you forget about them, right? You forget how you set up things. Okay, so for the normal map, or rather, yeah, that's the diffuse, or rather the base color. Why you want to use the base color and set this up for RGB and alpha. Alpha is the gray channel and RGB is RGB. You want to set up the normal map too. Normal map is, especially in Substance Painter, a combination of the standard normals that these materials down here use, and of course your own height information that you also paint into the texture map. Which means that we are not going to use the, where was it? Yeah, we are not going to use this here, we are going to use this here, normal OpenGL. So, let's see this. What are normals? Well, normals are its color, right? So RGB, that's what the output is. And then we are dragging this here into that, and we are telling it to use the RGB channels. And that is how you set up your normal map. It will then use a combination of the normal map and your painted height map. If you don't do that, you will not be able to use this combination map. You do not need to combine anything on your own. That's the magic of Substance Painter. Okay, And when you have that, I will not save this. Hopefully it won't save that. Yeah, when you have that, you just save it and then you can output that. Also, for the output size, if you are working with higher scale textures, which you can totally do, I suggest that you choose the 1024 because, again, Second Life will compress your fancy schmancy 4K 8K map because you do have all the video RAM that you need for that. It will compress that to 1024. And when Second Life does the compression, you will get a JPEG looking image at the quality setting of 20%. Trust me, I have been there. So yeah, there's a little benefit actually, since I'm touching on this one now. When you are using a higher setting here, and then compress this, or let Substance Painter compress the, let's say, 2K texture map down to 1024, the 1K texture map, you will get a slightly crisper looking texture inside of Second Life. Beyond the 2K, you will only see differences in side-by-side comparisons, so it's not worth your PC resources to do that. Okay. And once you set up that, you want to save the settings and then export, and of course choose where you want to have your thing. You would do that here, the output directory, which is pretty much self-explanatory. I will cancel this here. Keep in mind that Substance Painter will, in this constellation here, give you exactly 5 times the channels that you used. So if you have been using the base color, naturally you will get 5 base color maps. If on top of that you have been using the normal map, you will on top of that get 5 normal textures, followed by probably 5 metallic, 5 roughness, 5 spec maps, and so on. So don't be confused when you are suddenly having like a folder full of 30 files. Let's see, what else is there? Nothing. That's it. If you have any other mesh objects and you want to set them up for Substance Painter and they are similar to this, the workflow is exactly the same. So you only need to adapt those, and that's it. The basic tutorial on how to set up the avatar using Blender 2.79 and Substance Painter. Substance Painter, the version that I'm using here is the Steam version from last year, which is the first version that has UDIM support. The later versions do not have UDIM support. So this workflow will not work with the later versions. Okay, I guess that's it. Let's see here.